What's going on, beautiful people? Big up on yourself, whether or not they are yard or broad member or no large. You see it. Now, remember to like the video, remember to share, comment, and subscribe to the channel for support and growth. With all of that said and all of that done, I go jump into the intro, then I go come back with what I feel in.
Naomi Gocool, known throughout Gregory Park as Miss Sweeney, is the second fatality from an incident described as an act of terrorism by Prime Minister Andrew Holness. The other fatality was taxi operator Ranil Horton, otherwise called Rum Punch. He was shot and killed as the perpetrators left the area. Gregory Park falls within the constituency of East Central St. Catherine. The Member of Parliament, Alando Terrelong, confirmed Miss Sweeney's death today.
To think that these terrorists, by their actions, just by their hate, would have set fire to their homes and ultimately caused her death, it truly is unimaginable. The family members, they're in shock. Her children, her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren, it is, and not just the family members, but the entire Gregory Park community.
The MP says she was the matriarch of the community.
I visited her the day of the incident, the Saturday. I visited her at the Spanish Town Hospital, and again, it was really painful just to see the great Miss Sweeney, a stalwart, a matriarch in our community. When I saw her, the surgeons had just finished with her, and they asked me to wait. I was by the hospital for about 2 hours, waiting and also speaking with her. And her voice was weak, but she was in good spirits. She said, "Boy, Mr. Terrell, I can't believe this happened," but she's giving thanks to God that her children were safe, that her grandchildren were safe. And she was praying that she too would be safe.
Miss Sweeney made Gregory Park her home for the last 50 years. And according to Mr. Terrelong, the 70-year-old never deserved to die this way.
She was so badly burnt, the skin had peeled from her face and from her hands. Miss Sweeney did not deserve this. Her family does not deserve to be mourning at this point in time on account of this sort of heinous crime, this hate crime, this act of terrorism that has plagued the community of Gregory Park and has now taken the life of a matriarch, a community mother, a symbol of Gregory Park.
Every country, every nation, every independent people must be able to feed themselves. If you can't put food on your table, you can't call yourself independent. If you have to depend on other people's production to feed yourself, you're not independent. The challenge that we have had is that our agricultural base has not been able to supply all our needs. And that is not just a matter of our low level of productivity in some areas, but based upon our palettes and what we demand, just can't grow everything here. So we acknowledge that. But at least we must be able to grow the basics, and we must have a certain set of crops and livestock that we are self-sufficient in, and that forms the basis of our food security. Jamaica has about 200,000 hectares of land that we consider arable, meaning land that we can farm. We only need to farm about 100,000 of that in order to produce sufficiently all the staples that we need, all the protein that we need, all the vegetables and fruits that we need. Currently, we are only farming about 31,000 hectares that is irrigated. So the provision of reliable irrigation, water, to those acreages is a big challenge. It's about expanding agricultural output. Investments have to be made in agricultural infrastructure, particularly irrigation. So I'm pleased to say today that we have the Essex Valley and the Southern Plains irrigation projects, which are ongoing. And those two projects will bring about 5,200 hectares of land under irrigation. That is just a baby step to where we need to be, but the government is committed. We are now going to do the Pedro Plains irrigation project. So we have done the Southern Plains, Essex Valley is being done. The next one is going to be the Pedro Plains. And that is going to move us steadily towards our goal of irrigating our arable lands. And if there's one thing that we must conquer in Jamaica, it's this business of praedial larceny. At its core, it is reprehensible that someone should reap where they did not sow, that someone should benefit from your labor when they did not toil. And as I pointed out to some farmers today when we were discussing the issue, oftentimes it is people that are close to us, who we know, who can enter your yard without your dogs barking. So it is not just a criminal undertaking. A large part of our praedial larceny is also a socio-cultural element involved. It is now becoming almost an unspoken part of our culture, accepted. And I think that is another area that we need to address. We must respect the efforts of our farmers. So, ladies and gentlemen, I did not come here to preach, but to set some context. The Minister of Agriculture has been tasked with coming up with a viable solution to this issue of praedial larceny. There was already legislation in place for a special police force, agricultural police force, and the minister has been tasked with getting that legislation operational. I remember when former Minister J.C. Hutchinson talked about the chip. It was ridiculed because 5 or 6 years ago, the technology may have seemed far off. Right now, the technology is a consumer technology, quite robust and well proven. Almost anyone can buy an AirTag, which is the Apple version of microchip tracking. So it is quite feasible that we can tag our animals, geofence them, and properly track them. We are working with the technology providers to work out a solution that can be easily deployed and afforded by our farmers. We must conquer this business of praedial larceny.